Hello and welcome to another Tim Talk podcast by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jarrod, and joining me tonight is one of the OGs from the Axon podcast, Lawrence Connolly. How you going, Lawrence?
Yeah, doing great, mate. You know, top of the league, looking down on Rangers and all that. Delighted that you have me on.
Thanks for getting involved. It's good to have a chat with you. We're talking just before we started recording where, like, me appearing on Axon once a month sort of thing, I really enjoy doing that. But the first person involved in Axon that reached out and listened to our pod was yourself. So, yeah, it's been strange that we've been chatting on Facebook Messenger, Twitter, whatever, on and off for years. And it's the first time you and me got on a recording together. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
It's strange. It's like I've known you like online in that space for, I don't know, a couple of years now. And it's like we're finally chatting. So this will be really interesting to see where this old podcast takes us.
Yeah, I mean, I was aware of you pre-Ange.
There you go. Yep, there. Exactly. You're one of the original fans.
Yep.
No, it's good to get you on again. And just before we start off, if you're listening in, you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Celtic Down Under podcast. We really want to grow the subscriber base. So you can subscribe for us on both your podcast app and on our YouTube channel. And then while you're at it, on your social media, you can give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Celtic Down. And on Facebook, we've got a page and a group where our podcast and all that are shared. So if you want to get involved in all of that, please do so. There'll be a lot of Ange love and potentially some Harry Kuehl love going on there too soon. So, yeah, we'll start off with my first question, and it's pretty much a pretty open-ended one. You can tell us, but how did you become a Celtic fan, Lawrence?
I don't think there's any choice, you know. You know, of Irish descent, uncles, mum, grandfather, granny, cousins, all Celtic fans. So it's just part of, I suppose, who you are. I could have cocked out and said, you know, my local team, which they are, but, you know, I think it's more the Irish diaspora. Yeah, it's just part of being in the family is that, you know, we're Celtic fans.
Fair enough. With that in mind, can you remember the first Celtic game you went to? Or what's your earliest Celtic memory?
So the earliest game I can remember being at was a Morton one each draw. I think it was like 77, maybe 78. That's but I'd been my dad had taken it games before, but you know, kind of 2 and 3, you don't really recall that much, you know. But I do remember my earliest one was I think draw against Morton.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah, stellar game. You know, 1-1 draw with Morton.
Like Morton, my whole time following Celtic, every time you play Morton, it's like, you know, not much of a challenge, and it's a 1-1 draw against Morton. I'm like, huh? What sort of planet is this?
No, they were Premier League at the time. I don't remember much about the game. Run about down to Celtic with my brother Eamon. And we didn't win. So I think I get dropped for a couple of weeks for going to the game. My dad just wouldn't play sell.
Fair enough. So, got a question for you here, and it's a two-parter because you've already mentioned him. So, Ange, what sort of job do you think he's doing as manager at Celtic? And after you discuss that, what's your take on the current club structure at Celtic? So, what I mean by club structure is it could be anything from recruitment, the recruitment structure, the youth academy, players coming through from the Colts into the senior team, board, the works, just like it's open-ended. You can just go on whatever tangents you want on that question. So we'll start off with the Ange part. How do you think he's going? And then it's over to you.
So how do I think Ange's going? So beginning of the season, you know, pre-season he was announced, and what asked what would you asked what do you think success for this season would be? I said, well, if we win one cup and can stay in touch until the January transfer window, you know, maybe within 4 points of Rangers, and then maybe see where we can go for there. But, you know, if you can put a decent challenge in the league, we would have been happy. So he's delivered a cup, which, you know, would have been happy. He's won the league, which puts his kind of ecstasy. In Europe, I think he's just been fantastic. He's kind of the performance away against Real Betis showed it could really go toe-to-toe for periods of game against big European teams. His signings, by and large, have all been successful. So he's bought a brand of football that you want to be associated with. I think when Australia played Holland in the World Cup, I wasn't. I've got loads of Australian cousins, so I don't want to offend them, but I wasn't really supporting either team. But anyone that was a neutral by the end of that game was supporting Australia because of the brand of football, even though Australia didn't win. And I think he's brought that back to Celtic, many would say. And there's kind of the links to South Melbourne through Georgie Samaras, Jimmy Gribben going over and teaching Puskas, and then Puskas teaching Ange, and it's kind of a strange old world. So yeah, I think he's just been doing amazing, and we're all hoping that he makes good on your promise, Jarrod, because you told us it's the second season. It's the season where things get good.
I did say that, and the funny thing is, you're talking about being within 4 points or whatever. Like Liam on our podcast said, if we get to the winter break and we're within 6 points, we'll win the league. He actually openly said that, so you're spot on. It was a preseason. That's our man in Japan. So I was real happy that come through. But yeah, we were copping all sorts, and it's like, what do you Aussies know about football? Blah blah blah. I've only been watching Ange coach since 1996, and I've been a Celtic fan longer than that, so I kind of know both spheres of what's going on. So it was good though. Like, he wasn't, for someone who wasn't going to last past, last Christmas, and he's been there a year now. Yeah, he's done well. But
I think that's the Scottish press taking things who are generally fairly negative, if they can be, on Celtic. I think most fans realise there's a rebuilding season, and I think Dermot had said to him, can say what you're doing and don't worry about things. I suppose it sells newspapers headlines like that, doesn't it? Won't last past Christmas. And, but who would buy them? I don't know. I don't buy them.
I can tell you who. The people with the blue tinted specs on, because that's what those headlines are targeted at. Our guys don't listen to that sort of absolute rubbish. So yeah, it's But what you were saying about me saying that it's the second year, well, yeah, it's pretty much what all his teams do. You can go through his history if you want me to quickly whittle through it. But
go for it, mate. I love this.
South Melbourne, second year, won the league. Then when he was at Brisbane, second year, won the league. Then you go to Melbourne Victory. He's only did the 1 year there, but his squad that he built, his second year there, went on and won the league here under Kevin Muscat's management, with only 1 or 2 extra players added to that. So I'm still counting that as that's Ange's squad that won that league. Then he went to the Australian national team, went to the World Cup, cut a bunch of players, brought young guys in, who in his second year in that role won the Asian Cup. Then he goes to Japan. In his second year there, he wins the league. Now we're at second year at Celtic. There you go.
Yeah. So he's already won the league, so he's going to deliver that and hopefully something exciting in Europe. Yeah, it's got to be, isn't it?
But doing something in Europe for me is all I'm hoping for is we win a knockout match, like after the groups. Whether that's we stay in the Champions League, we finish second in our group, and we win the next lot of knockouts, or we go down to the Europa League and we win the next lot of knockouts. We've got to break that hoodoo. That's what I think doing something in Europe is this year.
Yeah, for me, I think the hoodoo thing, I'm like, what, see if you finished second in your Champions League every year, but then didn't win the knockout, you're going, well, is it better to finish second in the Champions League or get it to Europa and then win the knockout? I would argue better to finish second in the Champions League, even though you've not won a knockout tie.
Okay, so I'm putting you in with all the Arsenal fans right now, Lawrence. So, okay, let's finish third and fourth every year, qualify for the Champions League, guarantee that, but never win the league. That's why I put that.
That's what I'm saying. You just said, win a knockout stage, because you only won one. You're not wanting to actually win the tournament. So you qualify success as winning one, even if that was Europa League. I'm saying,
baby steps. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm just thinking finishing second in the Champions League group stage, or even first. Who knows?
Yeah,
would be phenomenal. Would you take top in the Champions League group?
Oh, absolutely.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
If we were to finish top of the group in the Champions League, but then go to the next round and get knocked out straight away by a team who finished second in their group, I'd be pretty upset, because it's like we finished top and then we lost. So to me, that's what I mean by getting through that knockout stage. Even if we only get through one and then get knocked out in the next lot, that's something we haven't done in over 20 years.
Yeah, listen, I get what you're saying. Upset if you top it and get knocked out. I'm upset Celtic lose a corner, but especially imagine the 10-year heights of topping your Champions League group. What would you be expecting? You'd be booking flights for the final.
Oh yeah, of course. But the thing you got to look at is us Celtic fans. We got high standards, and that's why we are that way. We're very privileged with what we've had over the last 20 years, in particular, with the amount of success and everything. Especially after being a Celtic fan in the '90s, really getting into it then for me and going through that. I'm like, the last 20 odd years past that has just been unbelievable. We've been very privileged to live through that. 9 in the row, quadruple treble, all this sort of stuff. I don't want to take that success for granted. That's why when I'm looking at the Champions League, I don't want to be going in the Champions League, topping our group, and then going straight out. I don't want that. Like,
it's not what you desire, but I'd still say that would be successful.
Oh, it would be, yes.
100%. I mean, the ultimate objective event you're playing is to win it, isn't it? So
all I'm going to say is you can guarantee some Rangers fans going to record this on TikTok and make us look like idiots if it doesn't happen. So good fun.
I'm sure that there must be better things to do with our time, but who knows?
But back to that thing about the second season thing with Ange, for me, I look at it and go, last year our squad wasn't quite as strong as he wants. Like Ange is a sort where he wants 2 guys at every position fighting out for that jersey every week. And we've got 2 strikers in Kyogo and Giakoumakis. We've got wingers. We've got everything. It's just a couple of key positions that we need to strengthen for Europe. And then once that's happened, Ange's team is going to be set. Plus, he's got more institutional knowledge on the ground, and off we go. So
yeah. Well, I mean, Anthony Joseph said, Celtic looking keeper, left back, centre back, defensive mid, attacking mid, and another striker. He's normally pretty on the money, isn't he?
He doesn't look around. He doesn't say stuff like that just for clicks.
Yeah, and it's because at one point with Kyogo and Giakoumakis being out, both out injured, we were struggling up top. Mikey Dawson came on. I still call him the reserve team, but it's not. But that's what he's there for, isn't it? But he quite himself quite well. But it showed you how thin in the ground we were kind of around about that time. So maybe a third striker would be good. But I think we've still got a Yeti. We haven't found a buyer for him. But if we can find somebody to take Barkas for a year, surely there's somebody out there that take a Yeti as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me, I've been saying on our pod that we need a left-footed centre-back, someone who actually – because, okay, Starfelt and Carter Vickers works well together locally, but if you get 2 right-footed centre-backs where Starfelt his whole time, you can tell he's been playing as a right-sided one. So his body movement is slightly – he does the job, but he's out of whack. He doesn't seem
the balance isn't right, and you don't move the ball as quickly forward, does he? It's just, as you said, it's a wee bit stilted and natural just when he's moving the ball, isn't it?
Yeah, so for me, you need that left-footed centre-back. You need a Juranovic type for the left-back. So don't get me wrong, Taylor's good enough in the league, and he's improved a lot. But we need someone who is going to be starting European quality at left-back in the same way Juranovic at right-back.
A modern-day Tosh McKinley.
There you go.
Yeah. Grab a modern-day Tosh McKinley.
Yep. So we need someone in that role. Yeah, we need a defensive midfielder, which we're being linked to. We need to sign Jota, and if it's not Jota, we need to get someone very similar.
Yep.
And then for me, I look at it and go, who we got playing on the right? We've got a Barter and Forrest. We're fine there, but I think we need a third string striker. And I'm not saying, and what I mean by third string is he said a Yeti. He needs to go, but then we need to bring in someone where Kyogo and Giakoumakis are going to be your top 2 strikers. They're both 26, 27. I don't expect them both to be hanging around for another 3 seasons, maybe another 1 or 2, especially if they keep playing with the form they've had. So we need to bring someone in the Edouard role that we did, bring them in, have them here for a year, learn in the club, learn in the league, so that when one of them moves on, I also say this is the Red Bull Salzburg, the Ajax model, and the guy's ready to step up. And then you replace him again. And a perfect player for that role that I've said on our podcast is look at Nick D'Agostino from Melbourne Victory over here. he already plays the high pressing sort of game, and he's just scored 10 goals or something in the league over here, which is 10 goals in 26 games or whatever, which isn't, or 11 goals. It's not bad. I think he'd be good in that role because he's a halfway between Kyogo and Giakoumakis in terms of the way he plays.
Is he an international yet? Because one thing I'm thinking is like Kyogo and Giakoumakis both are, so they're both going to go away for internationals.
Yeah, he is as well. He's broken into the squad.
So it's a risk when they go away. You know, I don't really bother international football. You're just going to just come back from the injured.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Like, I don't really pay much attention to the Australian team because I can't stand the manager. I've never been a massive fan of it. And, you know, the manager of Australia at the moment is Graham Arnold, who took over for Ange, and he used to play for a club over here, Parramatta, in the old NSL that was owned by the old Rangers.
Right. So he's tainted.
So because of that, it's like, nah, I just can't. I'm like, oh, he's just something. He's got a punchable face. Like, every time I see him, I just like, you're a scumbag. It doesn't matter if you're there and you're like, he's coaching against you or whatever. You just like, I just want to give you a backhander to the face or something. I just don't like the guy.
Yeah, I don't know the guy, but I'm just going to agree with you, mate. You know,
it's tainted. Exactly.
Yeah, he's tainted. As soon as you mentioned work for Rangers in some form, I'm like, nah, not for me.
Yeah. So, what's your take on the club structure at present?
So, the first team, we seem to kind of address stuff. We seem to bring players through to the age of around about 15 or 16. And it's that jump between there and getting to the first team that seems to be the struggle. I know we're trying the Lowland League again. We've tried the loan system. Nothing's really replaced the reserve league, you know, because they've got that mix of playing with first teamers that were coming back from injury, playing against opposition first teamers that were coming back from injury. It was, you know, a really decent level. I used to go and watch it at Barrafield, or if you moved, you know, if there was a big crowd, to give you 5 minutes notice that it was switching to Celtic Park and you had to sprint to the kick-off. So we need something to fill that gap. I think that's the main on the playing side. Coaching side, obviously Harry Kewell's come in, so I'm just making some moves in the background. He's brought you on. Did you call it?
Not Harry particularly, but I said he tends to leave the coaching staff in place from when he comes in at first, and then he'll make his changes going in the second year. If he's going to make changes and bring in other guys like his own assistant or sports scientist or whatever he needs.
Well, Anton come in kind of halfway through the year, the boy you speak to, didn't he? Sports science or?
Yeah, we brought in Anton McElhone, was his sports science guy, which he brought in, and now, you know, apparently he's had a word in bringing in Mark Lawwell, and now Harry's coming in, so he's starting to put his stamp all over the club.
I suppose Law was a good link to maybe the other part of the structure about how we're run by a minority shareholder is kind of the de facto leader, isn't he? And over the piece, I suppose, the last 20 years, him and Law have delivered success. You know, you can't fault that. But at the same time, it's still repeated a lot of mistakes, and it can still have been better. At least, you know, last season and with Big Cameron, Carter Vickers signing yesterday, we're starting to get people in early, whereas we used to struggle to do that. You know, it's 5 to midnight, who are we going to sign on loan? You know, and get 3 players from whoever's available. So
that's what I was going to say, Lawrence. Like it was like the old blind leading the blind. That's the thing. You know, we've got Champions League qualifiers. We've got to go through 3 or 4 stages of qualifiers. We go into playing Midtjylland last season with Neil Bitton, who gets sent off. So then the second game, we've got Welsh and Dane Murray. Yeah. So you look at that, and that's a recurring theme for years, going into Champions League qualifiers for like whenever we've had them for the last 5 years. But this year, we're straight into the Champions League. Opening day of the window, bang, Carter Vickers is in permanently. Blows the mind. Makes no sense.
Yeah. And not just that. Ange was talking kind of just after we won the league. He says, look, the reason I brought in O'Reilly was because I knew, you know, who was leaving. I knew Roger was leaving, so I wanted him brought in so he was bedded in for the Champions League. So he started going, right. So there has been, and the same with Gucci, you know, because when your beating was leaving, you went, right, at least.
About Gucci in the Japanese press, it's something Liam said to us as well, that Gucci as manager and that had come out over there, or he'd come out over there and said, yeah, he was signing with Celtic more for this season coming up than the current season that we were playing.
Yep. And it's just brilliant to see, and the communications, I suppose, got better. I think they're very straight talker. I think that endears them to the fans. You get honesty from them. You're not getting kind of wool pulled over your eyes or just told all the rubbish. So I think people like that. They appreciate a bit of honesty. So
it's the old thing with Ange. He's not going to not say things in press conferences or call out the media because he's wanting a job after he's done managing. He's not that way inclined. Like for him, once he moves on from Celtic, whenever that is, hopefully in a long, long time, he'll be moving on to another job to coach and manage at. He's not going to be leaving us to go into the media. So what's he got to do by sugarcoating anything? He's not going to do many favours.
Yeah. To be honest, I think you lose a bit of respect for people that do that, and people over here say, "Oh, they're just playing the game." You know what the Scottish media is like. You're like, well, maybe they're part of the problem if they're playing the game. Maybe if they didn't, it might change a bit. But where you are.
On that, that's kind of why I loved Lenny as a player, loved what he did as a manager, but that last year, the 10-0 season, whereas in the press conferences he's going, "Oh, things were okay. We just needed this to go away or that to go away," talking it down like nothing's wrong when it was obvious things were wrong from September that season. I lost a lot of respect for the guy because of that. So at least Ange is calling a spade a spade.
Yeah, I mean, Lenny, when he came out kind of afterwards and says, "You know what, I told him at the beginning of the season you can't keep players that want to leave. But, I was overruled and stuff." You're going, well, yeah, I suppose if you're a manager, you're not. How much interference was going on above him if he's not calling who's staying and who's going.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's a season best forgotten. The only good thing about that was the previous season's Scottish Cup and Christopher Ayer and Connor Hazard won us the quadruple treble.
Yep, 100%. So how do you think our recruitment has been over the last 12, 18 months? You just touched on it, that it has changed a bit where it's more like it's good to be doing it earlier. Is there anything else you want to say on that? Because you've mentioned about the youth coming through and to me, I think that's part of the recruitment that we could tie in. But I'd love to get your thoughts first.
So not so many, obviously Joe Hart, I suppose, aside, there was no huge names. Oh, we're going to get this player that was signed for 60 million, Elyounoussi on loan, and we're going to get a Robbie Keane, bring him in for short term, or we're going to get a boy from Everton so I think it's been more targeted to Andy's style of play. Opening it a bit smarter with our money, because Jesus, how much money have we wasted when you look through it? You're just kidding.
He actually did a count on that in the 10 in a row run, right, during that window. The amount of times we went and spent $1.5 million here, $2 million there on strikers, just on strikers alone, and it didn't work. Can't even putting Timu Pukki into all of that. We spent. Yeah. Take a guess what we spent.
I guess it's going to be 40, 50 million. It's got to be huge, isn't it?
It wasn't quite that. Just specifically on strikers.
Just strikers.
Overall, I didn't get into it. I was that shocked with just the striker position. I just stopped there.
What was sitting about 22, 25?
26 and a half. And that's including guys like 2 million for Amido Baldi, 2 million or 2.2 million for Stefan Skepkovic. You got Carlton.
See, there's another thing that Ange does. Remember Skepkovic begging him to come to the club? And Ange just kind of straight up and says, "Look, Ryan will agree. If you don't want to come here, you can't see if Celtic would give you.
Then you're not the right
You're not the right guy." And I think I love that rather than hanging out for a player. So Skepkovic.
Skepkovic 2.2. You had Colin Kazim Richards come in for like $1.5 million. So you just add all these up bit by bit by bit, and you're like, it was just thrown away money.
And the
amount of money that we have thrown away on these sort of players is the equivalent to what we brought in when we sold Kieran Tierney. Now, if you look at it from that scope, that is ridiculous.
It's almost what, imagine Ange's been given that money to spend, 1.5 for Matt O'Reilly. How many Matt O'Reillys is that?
1.5 for Rio Hatate, 1.5 for Matt O'Reilly, 2 million.
Is that 9? That's 9, 26.5 is 9 Matt O'Reillys, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much about that.
No, it's more than that. It's 18 or something like that.
That'd be more,
18? Something like that. I don't know.
Matt O'Reilly, 1.4. Yeah, you'd be looking at around about at least 10
16,
players,
18.
10, 11,
Yeah,
10, 11 players easy.
yeah.
But
So,
just do the maths on that. Look, that's how wasteful we've been over from basically 2012 through to now.
and they're all getting, a lot of them are getting huge wages, especially kind of the loan players or people we were buying from the EPL.
Hey, that's not even including loan players. That's the scary thing.
Is there not even loans?
No, it's not even loans. Unless there was a loan fee paid, that's not even including them.
Because yeah, anyone who got in a loan with
It would have been a fee.
kick, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's not even including John Guidetti, for instance.
John Guidetti, yeah, he was okay at Christmas, wasn't he?
Yeah. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, that 26 million, I'd rather have spent that the way Andrew spent it, targeted, I need this player, I need this player, I need this player, this is my budget, off we go, and get them.
Yeah.
Then, keep taking a punt trying to find your next Victor Wanyama or your next Virgil van Dijk sort of thing, which is what we were doing.
Yeah, I mean, John Park, I suppose he done all right. You hold up Van Dijk and Wanyama, but how many signings did we really make over that period? That's two that you can think, well, they done really well. Out of how many?
But the squad bloat, that's the thing that's why I asked this question. You look at the squad bloat there and it's like, okay, suddenly you've got a squad of 35 players, each earning what, £8,000 to £12,000 a week, for instance. No wonder we're bringing in 100 million turnover, but we're spending 60 million of that on wages.
Yeah, it does.
And you got clubs like Ajax who are only spending £45 million on wages, and they're making 150 million overall turnover. That's on the business side of it.
Not just that, if you've got a 35-man squad, you probably get 10 people in that who've got no chance of playing. And I don't know what that does to the atmosphere in the training ground, And especially if some of them are, I don't know, one of your highest earners on about 18 grand. If we had somebody like that that's hanging about and get no chance.
On that, ties back into something you said earlier about there being no reserve league. I loved it when there was a reserve league because, perfect example, this season, you got Albion and Yeti sitting around the squad, not playing at all. At least if he wasn't playing in the first team, he'd be playing in the reserves and having to earn his wage and try. And then he would have been fit enough that come December, he would have been a chance to go in and play those games pre-Christmas when we had no strikers. Instead of sitting on the bench being unfit and people looking at him now calling him fat. Well, I wish I was that in that sort of shape. But he's not football fit.
But if you're in the reserve league, it's not just getting into Celtic first team. It might be that you're facing all those fits, but if you're doing well in the reserves, other scouts are watching you. It's easier to move the player on then, because they're going, well, this is a decent level that they're playing at just now.
You can't drop him down to the Colts, and you can't put him on loan because who's going to want to pick up his wage? We'd have to pay the majority or all of his wage just to send him on loan. It's not going to happen. So
the thing with loan, I mean, I said at Christmas, an example was Joey, and I thought we should put him out on loan because now he's. I said I don't think he's going to play 90 minutes between Christmas and the end of the season. Yeah. He played 15. The problem with that, I said, is we're now facing the last year in his contract.
You're trying to sell him, and he's unfit. He hasn't proven.
Who's going to buy him? Well, he's not really played in a year and a half. So come the 1st of September, we can't afford to offer him a new contract and the same wages because we don't know what level he's going to get back to because that's a long, long layoff. So 1st of September, you haven't sold him. It means come the Christmas transfer window, he's free to speak to anyone, and he was a £7 million investment. So you're kind of looking at going, right, and I know that, the injury was unlucky and we're cruising that game as well. He could have just let that ball go in, but it's just when you get into situations like that, you're going, that's a lot of money down the stank as well. So sometimes I think you've got to look at the loan market and go, well, how long's left in his contract? Can we offer him another one in 6 months' time if he's not really going to get in the team? We need to get this guy in the shop window somewhere.
Can we put him in the shop window? Exactly.
So maybe that could be for a Yeti.
And that's something where you need as well. You need a network of clubs that are trusted clubs. Like I'll say this at the moment, the gap between the Colts and our first team is huge. So we need a couple of clubs, whether it's at the championship or low-end premiership level clubs, that we can go, okay, you played a season in the Colts, like a guy like Owen Moffat this season. He's done well at the Colts. Next year, he needs to be playing championship level, or he needs to be playing for whether it's a St. Johnson or someone low end or mid to low end of the Scottish Premiership. Play there for a year and then make his break into our first team squad next year. That's the pathway I think we need. But then you also need to have a group of clubs. So you want one or two clubs there that you trust and you know they've got the facilities. But then at the same time, you need those clubs in Europe, on the continent and stuff like, okay, let's make a deal with Groningen. We had a great relationship with them from when we signed Virgil. They wear green and white as well. Let's do the green and white brotherhood. Loan some players out there. Like you've got Julian who wants to play games, but he's not going to play for us. Let's see if they want him for a season.
Yeah, even if they only picked up part of his wages, because right now I don't think Ange fancies him. He's so far off; it's going to struggle to break in. So yeah, just to get something back from him just now would be great. But you touched on it. Cal Mack went down to Notts County to work for him. Aya went to Kilmarnock, Christie up to Aberdeen, and we could maybe be speaking to the manager of Fleetwood, and saying, look, because we've got a fairly decent relationship with him.
Do you want to be a preferred loan club that we can send our young guys down to? Do you want to, it'd be like, do you want Dane Murray for 12 months on loan to get first team experience into him for a year?
Well, imagine you put your right back and your right winger down, the two understudies, so as they've got that understanding on the park. So we're going to give you two of them, a cracking, play the same side of the park.
These are the positions they got to play, and then we'll get them back in 12 months, and they'll have that. Look at Scott Robinson. He went on loan for a few years, but I think he's ready to come and make that step into the squad. But then at the same time, you look at a Ewan Henderson, and he didn't have the same level of opportunity, and who knows what's going to happen to him. Or someone like Karamoko, with all the hype he had, perfect opportunity would have been, okay, let's put you on loan for 12 months, 18 months at a trusted club, someone we trust they'll do the right thing by the player, develop him, not play him out of position, and look after him. So then he could actually make his break here, because he's been 19 now, and Abada being 19 or 20, it's night and day.
Oh, totally. Well, is it Lecce or Lecce, whatever, the Italian team? Yeah, they've off their contract him. But I think Karamoko was one of those, because of the hype. Like, he's so close to playing in the first team. It could be next week. It could be next week. And maybe Ange was the guy that would have given him his chance if it hadn't been for that injury in pre-season, because he did look. He was in Ange's team. I know we didn't have a huge squad at that time, but he turned in some decent performances before the injury.
Yeah, I think that was an unfortunate sliding doors moment for him.
Yeah. He's off now. Young Henderson, I thought he's never any less than a 7 when he came into the first team. But
yeah, you need those sort of players.
Yeah, he was consistent. Scott Robertson, I think he'll come back in. I think he's been decent away. So hopefully. But then again, defensive midfield, you've got Gucci, you've got McCarthy, you've got Cal Mack that plays here, you've got Robertson, and we're rumoured to be looking at another. So there's a lot of competition for that space, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, speaking on that, for me, I'm looking at it the way Ange wants it. He's always had two players each position. And the talk being, with Bitton moving on, you've got Itaguchi in to replace him. I'm looking at it going, okay, you've got O'Reilly and Turnbull for the 10 role. He plays the 3-man midfield. You've got Hatate, and if you can push McGregor up into that 8 role instead of playing him as a holding midfielder, perfect. And then you've got Itaguchi, and if you bring in that, what's it called, Souza or whatever it is that they're talking about, the Brazilian defensive midfielder, and bring him in and have Gucci, there you go. You've got him. So it could be you play 2 games this week, Kelmac, have a game off. You don't have to stress. Rio's got your back. Or Gucci, you played well, mate, but Souza will be in this weekend because we're going up to Aberdeen and we want someone a little bit more physically imposing. And it horses for courses on what you want to do, but they're all players who know the system and fit in. And for me, that's what we need to build to.
Definitely. But you just touched on something a bit more physically imposing, which is probably something we could do with, I think, throughout the team. We've got a really small defence height-wise. I think Starfelt and Katavaka's are only 6 foot each. And
I said that to Paul one time when I was on one of the Axon pods. I'm like, I love the Scottish term "we." I love it. We're a bit "we" in the midfield. Like we put Sorrow on at one point, and I'm like, you got Kelmac, Sorrow, and it wasn't even Turnbull. Who else we had was someone tiny in the midfield. I'm like, we're Christie. That's right. I'm like, we're just tiny. Like, no height, no size at all. And then you're playing against like a Rangers team who have got like couple of 6-footers in the midfield, and you're just like, you just see a difference.
Yeah, and when O'Neill come in, you notice the kind of average height of the team rising, and you didn't get bullied as much off the ball. They're more physically imposing sometimes.
Yeah.
But I suppose you need that mix.
Yeah.
Guys at that size that can play the high press and a high tempo.
Not everyone's a Patrick Vieira. That's all I got to say. Someone who's like 6'3", 6'4", and he's really gangly looking, but will absolutely smack someone. Not everyone's one of those players. Like, you've got Rogic, he's like 6'1", 6'2", but he very rarely left the boot in.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't, it's touching at 6'1", 6'2", but you wouldn't say he's physically imposing, would you?
No. He's more likely to give you a cuddle, Tom Rogic, than, to put the studs into your shin.
Yeah, definitely. But that's maybe something we could look at. But, and Andrew Trust, he's been smashed out of the park on transfer so far.
He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need to listen to you and me or the rest of us. And he's not the sort that will either.
Do you think he actually listens to the podcast, though?
No chance.
You think not? I think you'd be surprised.
I think he might have family over here that does, because he's got because I know I get tagged and stuff from people at South Melbourne, and I'm trying to line up to go down and talk to them at some point, which is just down the road.
Melbourne. What about that? If you wore your hoops, you get in for free.
Yeah,
for one of their games. Yeah, did you see stuff on Twitter and all that?
See the videos after?
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Sing song. Okay. Oh, they're all celebrating together. And I'm like, no, it's like all the hoops guys in the middle going absolutely mental, and then around the outsides, the South guys with their phones go, "What is this?"
Yeah.
What have we let
it may catch on. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe next season, South Melbourne will have the.
But I love they brought in, like, it's a grand old team. They're singing that after games and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of stuff. So they brought in a few Celtic songs down there, so it's good.
Happy days. Yeah. So where does that leave us? On the board, yeah. On the structure, it can't be right, can it? A minority shareholder running it, as successful as it's been. Fergus said, never again will it end up in as a family dynasty. And here we are.
And the talk is he wants to leave it to one of his sons. So, sorry, you only own 30-something% of the club. You're not a majority shareholder. Why does he have so much power? Like, I know they have voting blocks, and that's why, because it's like him and another few other shareholders are all like pull all their things together. That's great. But isn't there like I know we've got a thing over here, the ACCC, so it's like an anti,
Well, I think it's just that the kind of investment companies that get Celtic shares basically just them and knows what he's doing with money. We'll just do it them. It says he can have their votes. I don't think the board hold him to account at all, and rumours are Peter's waiting in the wings to be anointed the next chairman.
Yep.
But we'll wait and see.
As long as if he does come in to do that, he stays the hell away from the pitch and what Andrew's doing, and he's just there as a figurehead overseeing things. Fine. I don't want him back, but if that's what it is, great, because our current chairman, I can't remember the guy's name anymore.
Michael Nicholson, former lawyer. Yeah.
Michael Nicholson's okay. Who's the other guy? Michael Nicholson's the CEO.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Yeah.
White hair. I'll try to think that.
Yeah.
That's how memorable a guy he is for us, eh?
It's weird the way Celtic's set up, because it's normally you hear from your chairman in the football, chairman and your manager, they're the two, but then your CEO who runs the club behind the scenes. Our CEO is more what our chairman's doing, and our chairman's more our CEO. It's backwards. Like, if you look at the EPL, for instance, people know who the chairman at those clubs are, and they know but you don't know who their CEOs are. Yeah.
Well, I said, I think Michael will change like that. I don't think he'll be as public in his announcements.
I love how quiet he is, and he's just like sits there. Okay, Ange, cool. Here you go. Here's a checkbook. You want that done? Check signed. Players in. Done deal. The less we hear from him, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's not his job, is it? Or he went thought it was his job.
At the start of last year, though, when Ange come in and he was there with the other bloke. I've completely mentally blanked on him now. The guy coming from rugby who was there like 3 minutes and then left.
It was weird. I was doing the Johnny Thompson 90 walks while leaving from Celtic Park for the 90th Johnny's 90th anniversary, walking to the grave through in Fife. And he was meant to see us off. Big John Fallon came down, Jim Craig, and then he says, he won't be able to see you off. Something's come up. And you're like, Right, 3 days later he was gone. You know, it's like it's going to be Chris Mackay, the finance director, that sees you. So he saw us off, and big shout out Sharon Brown, the director, turned up, and in Fife she stays near Cavenden where Johnny's buried. But some of the guys were walking, and she stopped her car. Didn't have to do it. Stopped the car, get out. Are you the guys? Did she goes, "Oh, I'm the commercial director," and that. Which I thought was a nice touch from her. Because commercially, we do seem to be able to turn a coin and get some good deals over, don't we?
Yep. That's what we're good at, though. Good at monetizing, but at the same time,
we don't price fix, though. That would be illegal and get you in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, I'd never do anything illegal, over at Ibrox, would they?
Nah,
never. Anyway.
Not this club, maybe the last club.
Yeah, so we spoke about what areas of the team I think we need to structure. What do you think we need to strengthen? Sorry, what are your thoughts on that?
I think although Ben get another year's deal, I think the gap between him and Hart's too big. And I remember it's Seagrass that we're looking at. Would he come? Who knows? But I think that's too big. Doohan get freed, but he'd been out and load everywhere, hadn't he? He's 24. He's never going to do it. Young Toby's, they've said, he's one for the future. So I think
going on loan to one of those, as I say, preferred, trusted clubs. Like if he could go, because look at St Johnstone. Xander Clark moves on. There's an open spot there for him. If he goes on loan there for a year and does well, then Joe Hart's not going to be out of our squad for another year or two, at least. So then, if you can go and get some first team football at St Johnstone, for instance, perfect.
Yeah, you need the experience because you need. It's okay saying he's one for the future, but we really need to see him tested at a level. So I think goalkeeper, at left back, I think Liam Scales. There's too big a gap between him and Taylor. Taylor's just miles and miles better than him. I'm a huge fan of Taylor, and a lot of people aren't. So I think Greg probably needs some competition that's closer to him. And in an ideal world, you're going to be signing someone that's better than him. Because you want to instantly improve your team.
And so you want to sign somebody that's better.
Yeah, whether you sign somebody that's better than him, it kicks Greg on again. Because what finished the season? What he had, he was a bit sticky around about the League Cup time when he came back from injury. But outside of that, brilliant season for him, and certainly since Christmas onwards, cracking performance.
You mentioned Scales there quickly. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a left back. He's a left-footed centre back. He's what we need to sign, but I think he's two things. He's a little small, and he's a little inexperienced for us. So if he was to go on loan to Aberdeen for a year and play as a left-sided centre back, maybe that'd give him the experience we need, but it's still not going to make him grow those 3 or 4 extra inches he needs.
Yeah, I mean, Scales, he's got a couple of goals, some assists. He says himself he's a left centre-back. He doesn't look that physical, does he? And we've touched on the 2 we've got are only 6 foot and not the biggest. Yeah, he's left-footed, but yeah, I think he's miles away. But I haven't said that. We've not really seen him get a chance at left centre-back. But from what I've seen at left-back, yeah, he's miles. He should be miles away from the first team. So, yeah, a left-footed centre-back gives us a bit of balance. Dane Murray had done okay. Steve Welsh has done okay. There was interest from Serie A for him, but I think it's somebody coming in as a starter, especially if we can move Chris Julian on. With him having a year left, I think we just need to get him off the wage bill now. I think we're going to be lucky to get any money in terms of a fee for him. Unfortunately, he's just been out for injury too long. We didn't see enough of Gucci because of that injury, but I would say, and I really like James McCarthy, whether he's was an Ange signing or not, there's a lot of speculation. And if he doesn't fit Ange's model, then another defensive mid. Now, whether Scott Robertson could fulfil that, hopefully, because I think Callum's wasted at the back, but I think he's our best number 6, our best number 8, and our best number 10. So it's kind of it's that problem, isn't it? Sign another 2 Callum McGregors. Could we just do that?
Now Rogic is left. He's our best number 10. Just that's the Australian in me here.
Okay, listen.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that to be a smart ass.
No, it's what a final season. Because before that, it was just glimpses of what he could do. Really, wasn't it? You had some special moments and some special goals.
both him and Bitton, it was the same. Like if they left 12 months earlier, people would have been like, "Hooroo, see you later, piss off," sort of thing, right? We're not going to miss you. And then Ange comes in, and those two both played decent in their last season. That's like, okay, now we appreciate what you've done for us as a club. On you go. Enjoy your rest of your career.
I mean, Beaton, I think about 20 months ago, people were talking about Scott Brown's getting washed up in that, and maybe longer, maybe 23. And I came out and said, you know what, we've got his replacement at club. We should be playing near Beaton as a defensive mid. And
this is what we signed him as. And then Rogers started playing him as a centre back, and all of a sudden that's where he was positioned.
Yeah, unless we can get, who can we get in on loan last minute? Oh, Shane Duffy's, we'll get him up. He didn't work out. I'll just shove Near back. And it's, but, I think he always gave his all in the part. But yeah, he wasn't the best centre back, but probably because he's not centre back. It's
everyone's wanting that Mascherano type that was a midfielder who drops back into defence.
He's done that. But yes, thank you, Neil Robin. Trophy laden. 9 years at the club, 1 year short of his testimonial.
31 trophies between the two of them walking out the door.
That's something, isn't it?
16 for Tom, 15 for Bitton.
And Tom obviously left us with a mortal light. Mate, we've dominated for the last 10 years. You're just like,
He doesn't say much, but when he does, it's a mic drop every time.
Yeah, it was just classic. So, yes, defensive mid. I know attacking midfield, I'd like to see something come in. I like O'Reilly. Turnbull, still to be convinced of. I think it's a bit one-paced. Sometimes sees the pass, doesn't play it.
Sometimes takes 2 or 3 touches before doing anything instead of grabbing it, one touch, bang, next pass. That's what it annoys me. Like I said during last season, just out of the blue, probably about 3 or 4 weeks before it was announced that Rogic was leaving, I said, I can honestly see Rogic or Turnbull, one of them no longer being at the club next season. And I thought it'd be Turnbull leaving because I don't think he really suits the way Ange wants to play. But if he can get
the ball
into him and go from there, then he could actually work.
He takes the ball in. You can see he sees the pass, but as you said, he takes another couple of touches and then goes back to it. You've killed it. You've just killed it now. He's marked now. But listen, he's young. He was another one to get injured. So Ange's got a record of improving players, so you tell me, Jarrod. So, and I'm beginning to believe you after last season. Look at Tony Ramsden.
The thing with Turnbull, right, and I don't want to seem like I'm bashing him here, but first half of the season, he's probably one of our better midfielders. And I'm being completely honest. He played
every game until he was injured. It was one of Ange's first names in the team sheet, wasn't it?
Exactly. So we didn't have options, and he ran him into the ground. So it shows Ange needed him. But then when he came back, because all of a sudden the whole dynamic of the squad had changed, Rogic was now fit. You had Hatate, you had O'Reilly in there. Suddenly we had options in the midfield. It's like, okay, he's barely getting a look. And then when he come in, as we were saying, he'd get the ball, then he'd take a touch. Instead of getting it, bang, next pass. It was touch, try to beat a man, try to turn them a preferred foot. Next thing you know, because of how fast our strikers are, whether it's Maeda or it's, Kyogo, if he doesn't get that pass straight away, the guy's offside. Yeah. And then it becomes a nightmare. So if he can tidy that up, and that's the thing that Ange has got to get him to straighten up. If Ange can make him improve there, we're on to a massive winner there.
You don't need 3 touches when one will do you? It just, if you
this is more.
Just do it. Yeah. So, listen, hopefully, and, we've got to say, he was come back from injury as well, so sometimes it takes you a wee bit of time to go up to speed.
Yep.
Obviously, hopefully we sign Jota. If not Jota, we're going to need a replacement for him. And I think we need a third striker, as we touched on earlier. But I can't see us signing that while Ayeti's still at the club, i.e. not out on loan or sold. But saying that, Ayeti, Ange played okay away against Betis, didn't he? I think he scored a couple. So he's shown that he can score for Ange, and he looked a lot fitter last season than he did in the previous season. So maybe there is a player in there. Who knows? And if we don't get a buyer, he just might need to be a third striker.
Yep. And then you let him go once his contract expires. Who knows? At least that way I'd rather not. I'd rather get some money back for him. Otherwise, we add him to the list of the 26 million.
He's got 2 years left, hasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
But probably be a year's option at the end of 2 years as well. So,
Yeah.
but hopefully he's not been sitting just getting scalps. Yeah. In 3 years' time or 2 years' time.
He comes in, he's improved, and he's put something in. Like, now he suddenly hit an absolute menacing free kick or something like that was never in his locker. He's had nothing better to do, so why not go and learn how to put him in left top bins with left and right foot?
Remember, like Pierre, what free kick taker, Johnny Collins. Oh, amazing free kicks. To Canio, a decent free kick. Who's a free kick taker now?
Well, it was Lee Griffiths.
Yeah, but I know Turnbull hits a few. You're kind of going, we need somebody to be getting up to that level in free kicks, don't we? At set pieces.
O'Reilly looks good when he's taking corners, but I haven't seen him actually take a proper free kick yet. So
hopefully he's working on that in pre-season.
Exactly. Because if you can do that as well, guess what? That's not just going to help him in the Celtic squad. It's going to help him break into the Danish squad because other than Eriksson, they don't have anyone who's really technically sound with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hopefully we get someone there. But that's pretty much it for the squad, I think, that I would bring in.
All right. Now to the fun questions, the last 4, which I always love for these ones for you. So we'll start off with, other than Henrik Larson, Lawrence, who would be your all-time favourite Celtic player and why?
Well, Henrik Larsson's not my all-time favourite Celtic player.
I just put that other than because every time I'd ask that question, it'd be like, oh, Henrik Larsson, the King of Kings. And you're like, okay, who else?
So Daniel Fergus McGrain, just quite simply, the best football player I've ever seen. Celtic or otherwise, just the best football player I've ever seen. And an absolute gentleman when you meet him.
You know what I've got to say about him? Can't say a bad word about him at all. Him and my all-time favourite, Paul McStay, just happened to be at the club during an absolute nightmare run, and they stayed loyal, and they were quality players, and they could have moved on and ended up anywhere, playing in the EPL, at Man United, could have been at Liverpool, whatever, at top-level English Premier League clubs, could have gone to Germany, whatever, Italy, the works, and they wouldn't have been out of depth there at all. They would have been still being star players, both of them, and they stayed at Celtic the whole time. So,
you mean Danny? So he left us to go to Hamilton Accies, dropped down a division. Yeah. I think he was 36 at the time.
He'd had his run at that point.
Yeah, and he was awarded. He obviously won the league with Danny in the team, and Danny was awarded the best player in the league. It's like
says it all.
And then he retired because he didn't want to face Celtic.
Yeah.
So it was, right through from quality, because Danny must have seen a lot. Quality, he's a Quality Street kid, right through the 70s, 80s. I think 86 was he left, and then he's been on the coaching staff, and I think he still goes in and does a wee bit just now. I know he does the tables on match day, but I think it's still up at Lennox Town a couple of days a fortnight or so. Yeah, him and John Clark. Yeah. Yep. Stories those boys could tell. And as you touched on, the maestro, who's now living out your way, isn't he?
He is in Sydney.
Yeah.
So you never hear from him, you never see him, and then suddenly, just all of a sudden, there was like Scott McDonald was over here playing for Western United, his first season out in the A-League, and he's at the game against Sydney FC, and all of a sudden, there's a photo of the two of them that Scotty Mack shared up on his Twitter, and it's just him with the maestro, and I'm like, how good is that? So he's around. He comes out to watch the football, but it's just you just don't hear from him. You don't see from him nothing. So
yeah, I mean, there's rumour of a book coming out, which would be a cracking read.
Oh, okay, that's it. If I get that book, I'm going to have to go stalk him to get it signed.
Yeah, he'd move it to Sydney.
No chance.
he may move to Melbourne. Who knows?
Yeah.
If they start signing more Celtic songs.
You can guarantee there'll be a massive McStay sighting later this year when Celtic's in Sydney. They're going to wheel him out for that. You can guarantee, and he'll actually, because the club will ask him to do it, he'll step up and do it.
Yeah, totally.
It's not like he's going to deliberately put himself out there. Yeah, I'm here, everyone. No, if the club go, look, we need you to go and do this, and this. Can you do that for us? He'll be like, sure, no worries, and then they won't have to fly anyone else out from Scotland.
Yeah, totally. You could just handle it all yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, being an ex-pupil of my father's, my dad used to teach him. Went to the same high school as him.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yep. All right, next one. This question we can tackle it one or two ways. It's who would be your top 5 players that you've seen play for Celtic in your lifetime. So you can either just give us a list of 5, or we can put together a 5-a-side team. So you go goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, striker, as long as there's 5.
Right.
Like the last Tim talk I did, he basically went 1 defender, 1 midfielder, a goalkeeper, and 2 attackers. So you can do however you want.
I'd probably just play 5 Danny McGrains. I know there wouldn't be a lot of goals, but it'd just be great to watch. But no, so Danny would be in definitely, but not in goals and not up top. Oh, goalie. I would have to say Arthur Boric, who Celtic
I knew that was coming.
That is friendly, but I mean,
knew that answer was coming.
But there was just one season, but it's the only season I've actually thought, you know what, was the keeper that won the league this year. And it's the only time I've ever seen that from a Celtic team. You know, you could say, like, well, it was Foster that helped us beat Barcelona. Yeah, but that's not winning the league. And I thought, and I thought Arthur actually won us the league that year. So Arthur, Danny, could probably just play 3 strikers after that. You know, because Danny could just control everything, you know, in a 5-a-side pitch, could he? Yeah. So I'd probably stick Virgil at the back. Alongside Danny. Toss up between Virgil, Paul Elliott, but I think Virgil. Midfield, the maestro. And I suppose,
one striker.
So who have we got? Lennox, Sutton, Larson. Even Van Holdalt was good. Cadetti was phenomenal for a season. So you need to give it to Henrik, wouldn't you? You just need
think so?
Yeah, it's either him or Bobby Lennox, I'd say. So yeah, but I'd say Henrik. Yep.
That's good squad there. Like it.
Decent goals everywhere apart from Danny. I think
but he'll be setting it all up for everyone though. That's the thing. You don't have to worry about that.
Remember that penalty Boric put at the top? That was the best penalty of the show, wasn't it? Just swaggers up to the ball, sticks in the top corner.
Bang, whack it, see you later. And the thing as well with Virgil is he's a guy who can ping a free kick. So even he could score in that, or score with the old head. So
or dribble from his own half, remember that one? Just get it out from his own half and stuck it in. You're like, yeah, you're all right, mate.
You're like, yeah, you're not long for this league.
You could tell that within his first 20, 30 minutes, couldn't you? You were like, that boy's a bit good.
I remember watching it and I'm just like, okay. I'm like, who's the guy with the top knot going on with that hairdo? And then about 20 minutes, that's what drew my eyes to him straight away. And then it's like, okay, about 10, 15 minutes later, you're like, he is real good. Another 10 minutes after that, I'm like, yeah, he's not going to be here next season.
Yeah. We still let go too cheap.
Yeah. Well, that was the market back then. Still to this day, it's still a pretty cheap market for those down south. But we're now exploiting that as well by going, Japan, the most expensive player ever out of Japan was Kyogo. Before that, the highest fee paid by a European club to a Japanese club for a Japanese player was 3.2 million.
Right. Jeez. So we've got a shop where we can get best value, haven't we?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the markets. Even South America, where we're linked at the moment, there's a lot of value there if you get the guys at the right age.
Yeah. And
buy
that fit the system.
Source. Yeah. Buy them direct from the source and get them to fit the system. Then it'll work. We don't need a Raphael Shite situation.
Raphael, number 35. Yeah, I think Martin O'Neill says so. One training session, he's like, no. You know, when O'Neill came out, he's like, yeah, one training session, he said, yeah, definitely not.
Yep. What are some of the most memorable games that you've seen Celtic play in your life, Lawrence, and what's so memorable about these games? You probably got a whole book of them, like 15, 20 games you could think of, so just pick out a couple.
So Celtic Juventus, and Liam Brady was in midfield, so my dad took me and my brother Ian into that game, and that was just an amazing game. And I remember kind of the Celtic fans kept clapping Juventus, and I was like, what's going on? This is wrong. My dad, no, son, that's good football. So, yeah, so that kind of sticks out. that was a cracking game. That really was. 85 cup final, 100 cup final. That was decent as well. I suppose 5-1, 6-2. Pretty decent games. Beating Juventus 4-3. What a game. I mean, that still goes down as one of, I think, the best ever Champions League games in the Champions League. Not, necessarily involved with us. That was just outstanding.
Yeah.
The best one, I struggle to pick out the best one, but
you don't need to get the best one. Then
there's so many, mate. But there's just so many. But yeah,
you'll pick one today. But then if I was to ask you this question in 2 days' time, you'd have a different one was the best because it's what you're feeling at the time. And for me, like watching all the games over here on TV, it's like it's so different to you guys over there. Like things you'd notice in the stadium and the crowd and the vibe of the game and all that is where it's different. So for me over here, the Invincible treble winning cup final was my favourite, and it's because, as I'm saying, the crowd. I was at the CSC, and Aussie scored the winner in extra time, and it's like, so you get that, and it's just like wow, and like to me, that's the big one. But if I was at the stadium, I'd know that there'd be a bunch of different moments and things like this season, Tony Ralston up at Ross County.
Ross County.
You look at that game. If I was at that, like that was cool watching that sitting in my lounge room watching the game. But if I was at the stadium, that'd be a lot higher up my list, I reckon, than
remember the Boxing Day game when Steve McManus scored 2 at Tynecastle?
Yeah.
To snatch it for us.
It's the sort of thing, like, it's not just the game itself, it's what goes on with the game. Like, I've asked a guy this in the past, and he said, this game, because it's most memorable because it's the first game and last game I went to with my dad. And I'm like, so that's real personal to him. So that's that question where I could ask you again tomorrow, and I could ask you again in a week's time and in a month's time, and you'd have a different game every time on what would be your most memorable. So
there's just so many. Just when you think back, as you touched on that, even away game get down to Leicester after we'd won the league. So we'd won the league. I just come back from Ireland after burying my gran, and you get the bus down from the Chase in Kirkintilloch all the way to Leicester with a bunch of boys. What a great away game that was. I beat Man United in Beckham's testimony. Yeah. That was cracking as well. It was a bit tasty, we'll probably get down there. In fact, Nakamura scoring against Man United, and we were just turning up to get beat.
Yeah, it's just different, isn't it? Like there's so many different levels of what you can and can't do with that. So yeah, we'll leave that question there for you. I'm sure you'll probably come up with 3 or 4 more in the next half an hour. But I love one thing you said though. You've gone 6-1, the 5-2, blah blah. You just rattle off scores, and everyone listening will know what games you're talking about. How weird is that? Like in a support with a club that's been around since 1888, you can just mention a couple of scores and people know the game straight away. Like I'm sitting here, you go bang bang, and I'm like, yep, I know the ones.
Yeah, they are pretty standout, aren't they?
It's just I find it funny. It's just you can say a score, and everyone, not just the 60,000 who would have been at the stadium or whatever, but the million Celtic fans worldwide, just off 2 scores, know. So bang, which games you're talking about?
2 names: St Patrick's Day, Massacre, and Palm Sunday Humiliation, back to back, because we just weren't doing anything then, and then got them twice in quick succession. So those were 2 crack games to be at as well.
So my last question for you, Lawrence, before we wrap it up, and then you can go take your dog for a walk.
Yeah, and he'll take me for a walk.
Drag you along. Who would be the one player, and I've always say this, other than Messi and Ronaldo, because, of the current thing, right? But we don't have to worry about that. Who would be the one player that you've seen play in your lifetime and wished they had signed to play for Celtic? Money is no issue. We're owned by, you look at it, we're owned by a, Middle Eastern oil money mob. Wages aren't an issue. Transfer fees, no issue. So it's full made up, whatever. Who would you have wished we signed?
Could we pick the original Ronaldo? Because I actually think he's better than Messi and the other Ronaldo.
Yep, if he stayed
fit. Yeah, totally. He was just phenomenal. Even after his injury.
That haircut, just this part here.
Yeah.
Red still shaved. Just that, I think it was 2002 World Cup, or was it 98? 98 was France, so it was
It's
2002 in Japan and Korea, and he had that bit there, and what's that for? He goes, "Oh, to cushion the headers." That was actually his reason. He kept it because he wanted to cushion the header. Like,
but he was a machine. I was watching some 90s football.
PSV games when he was there.
Just get by guys like the one, goodbye 4 defenders that'll try to take him out, and he just back in it. He was just phenomenal. So I went
on a pod a while ago, and it was like you had to do your dream team, and I had him as one of my 2 strikers.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Christian Vieri though, at Juventus, 90s, in Aussie, although he played for Italy. Christian Vieri was, what a striker he was.
He was different class, yeah. He was at Inter Milan for years, I know that much.
Yeah. So
he was quality. I always get this every time I talk to someone about this. Like, you just brought up Christian Vieri, and straight away, like the other day I was talking to, trying to remember, I was talking to someone else, and they mentioned, I recorded one of these a couple of days ago, and he mentioned, I think it was Kaka as his answer.
Oh, and AC Milan, that goal puts out in extra time.
And straight away, when he mentioned Kaka, I'm saying this, like what you say triggers for me. I'm like, I would have loved AC Milan, Andrei Shevchenko.
Yeah, Shevchenko. Yeah.
So you just look at it, and it's like you say one player, and I think of someone else in that team and in that era, and it's just crazy how it works. But yeah.
One player we almost signed, I wish we had, though, was Paul McGrath. Apparently, it was really close to being done at one time. So I think that would have been brilliant in the kind of 80s, 90s, might have been different for us.
Yeah, well, I'll take those scars being a Celtic fan because in the 90s, because it makes me appreciate what we've got a lot more at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Without doubt.
We had it shocking, like over here though. Like, games weren't on the TV, so you get a VHS sent over. You have no idea what the scores are. You're going to the CSC and you're just watching a tape of like 4 or 5 games of us just getting beat and then us playing and losing, and it's just like, draws, and it's just like, oh. But you come back.
There was the 10 and 6s. We did win the 10 and 6s during that time. I don't know if you're aware of that. It was the only thing we won during that time was the 10 and 6s. It was like 6-a-side competition.
Oh, fair enough.
I think even Cascarino scored on that.
The funny thing is, you say 10 and 6 is the only thing I know is what tenants is. I didn't even know there was a tournament.
So they were the sponsors. But
good fun.
Yeah, the barring years
just makes you appreciate what you got. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, last 20 years, absolutely phenomenal return, isn't it?
Last 20 years, we had 15 league titles. Happy days.
Yeah, and
they're 3 or 4, whatever, before it all happened. Well, EBT generated. So,
well, the thing is, they weren't EBTs because EBTs were illegal. They were actually tax evasion generated. That's the point. They were illegally breaking tax laws.
Yeah,
because EBT is illegal if they don't have side letters.
Yeah.
So it's so we need to be clear. They actually broke the laws here to win them.
Yeah, I'll just base it off what limited knowledge I've got on it. But yeah, different club now. They died. They cheated. You get on with it.
Yeah. The other one with doing anything like prize fixing, that's just got to be scurrilous rumours, hasn't it?
That wouldn't surprise me though. Would not surprise me because
you would rip off your own fans.
Who was it through though? Let's put 2 and 2 together here. You've got the club involved and the arm selling them.
Yeah, and so I think Dave King was still involved at the club at that Paragon of Fortune. But anyway, we digress. It's all about Ange now, isn't it? It is the age of I've seen that, the age of Ange. So we need to make like the age of Ange in Glasgow or something.
We never stop. That's what I'm saying. We never stop. Gotta love him.
He's phenomenal, isn't he? And year 2 beckons.
Bring it on. Thanks, Lawrence, for jumping on and having a chat with me on the podcast. Really appreciate that. It was good to finally have a chat with you. And where can people find you on socials and on podcasts and all that?
So Celtic State of Mind on Tuesdays and match days. On socials, I'm on Twitter. Not that active on it, I have no idea about my, whatever you call it.
Nice long one, so easy to find on there anyway. I'll tag you in the podcast when this is released, Lawrence, and we'll go from there.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for
Absolute
jumping.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure, mate. And hopefully we catch a Celtic game live together at Winshill at some point, mate.
Hoping to get over there in next season, some point. So we'll I'll let
Do
you
you know
know.
who I met when it was over? Gordon Conlon from the YR Celtic Sports Club. Gordon, who's got the brazen shed. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I want to send him one of these flags to put up on it.
Oh, definitely, mate. Definitely. But
If
yeah,
you're watching, Gordon, send us a message so we can get it over to you.
it's a cracking flag, mate. You know, you should be getting that for the subscribers competition.
Yep, we'll sort it out anyway. I'm going to get it. I've got a big one of these flags, even bigger than that. I accidentally ordered the wrong one. So it's like 10 foot by like 6 foot or something. The thing's massive. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do with it. So when the game's out later in the year, I think that'll be at the stadium.
After that, give it to Gordon, because the brazen shed is a cattle shed that's turned into a pub.
Yeah.
So legend has it. I've not been to YR, but one day.
Yeah, one day we'll have to both get over there. But yeah, we'll leave it there, Lawrence. Thanks again. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. God bless.